spiritual expressions of abundant thought, served with a side of humor. A vibrant, intangible playground for the expression of ideas, concepts, and thoughts, queries, energy, research about synchronicity. With guests, stories, experiences, imagery, magic, awareness, and you. Cool coincidence. Welcome to Cool Coincidence.
I'm your host, Barbara Karnes, and today we're going to be talking about coincidence at the beach. Being that it's July 18th and all, I figured it was apropos to see what kinds of interesting experiences people had had during the summer season at locations you'd usually expect to find them. And I did uncover some interesting results. I found two that I wanted to share with you today. The first is from December of 2003, believe it or not. It's by a Dr. Fred Goodwin, who used to be a host of a public radio program on mental health, brain, and behavioral issues called The Infinite Mind. And there is a transcript that I was able to locate in preview form, which means that it was able to share many, but not all of the pages, in Google Books. So let me read the significant portions of this story with you right now. Again, this is from a transcript from the radio show The Infinite Mind, Volume 301, with the topic of the day being coincidence. We have a number of, I'll call them players, who were participating in this particular segment of the transcript. We have Goodwin, who's the host, Dr. Sigman, spelled S-I-G-M-A-N, who's a professor at Columbia University, Chuck Davidson, who's identified only as someone who lives in Croydon-on-the-Hudson in New York, and an additional cast of interesting characters that you can check out by reading the full text at Google Books. Link is in the description section. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to hit the beach. Okay then, so here we go. It starts off with host Goodwin having an exchange with guest Sigmund. Goodman begins. What about other kinds of connections? For example, people often draw a parallel between Kennedy and Lincoln because, of course, they were both assassinated and both of their assassinations had profound and long-lasting consequences for our country. Do you find that these are examples where people kind of selectively attend to things? They try to sort of pick and choose? Sigmund. Sure. And sometimes the date is even wrong, and they may even see things that aren't true. If you take two people that you know, you can probably dig into their background and then find all kinds of things which appear quite amazing. You're looking around for those things, and you're finding they may have the same number of letters in their name, or they may have the same second cousins who have the same first name. You can go on and on that, for that matter. Good one. So, our wish to find meaning and to make sense of the world is a pretty powerful filter for what things we may be paying attention to and what things we remember. Sigmund. I think so, sure. Good one. Dr. Sigmund, do you have any coincidences that strike you in your own life? Sigmund. There was this happening years ago when I first finished my freshman year of college, and my roommate was at that point where he took off and was driving across the United States in a car, just to have a trip. And a week later, exactly, I flew back because my family was in Connecticut, and I took a flight to New York City and decided to stay a day there with some friends and see some museums and things. So the first thing I did was I went to the Museum of Modern Art. And I got on an elevator, went to the top floor to the photography exhibit, and I walked out of the elevator, and the first photograph I looked at, there's my roommate standing there looking at the same photograph. Good one. Okay, Now, did that strike you at the time as meaningful, or did you already figure out that it was just chance? Sigmund: it certainly seemed meaningful and remarkable to me. Any human I feel, will feel that way, particularly when these things happen to them. It's part of being human. I can certainly explain it probabilistically in saying that this happens to people all the time, but that doesn't necessarily, remove the interesting feeling that it gives when it happens. I mean, it's fun when these things happen. It's nice. In a sense, they're going to happen all the time. There's every day, everybody, you can think of them and their experiment, and there are almost 300 million people here in the United States, so 300 million experiments are going on all day long. Good one. So that means that actually from a point of probability, that the probability that a coincidence is going to happen in anyone's life in any one day is pretty high, isn't it, Sigmund? It is pretty high. Good one. Dr. Sigmund is a professor at Columbia University. Thank you very much, Dr. Sigmund, for joining the Infinite Mind. Sigmund: thank you. Good one. It's a small world, and here's a story to prove it. Davidson: I'm Chuck Davidson. I live in Croydon-on-Hudson, New York, with my wife, Tina. On our 14th anniversary, we ended up in Bali, and to be sitting on a beach looking at this volcano in the mist. In the morning mist, it was very early, maybe about 5 in the morning. There was no one else on the beach. Here I am, just sitting there and up, and the mist is along the beach. I got up so early so I could work on this book, and so I'm working on it, and I have my little books out and all my little sketch pads and my layout things, and this man comes by, and he comes up to me on the beach and says, "Hi, where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from New York." He said, "Whereabouts?" I said, "Croydon-on-Hudson." And he says, "I know someone from Croydon-on-Hudson." And I said, "Who?" And he said, "Link and Joan Diamond, D-I-A-M-A-N-T." And I said, "Link Diamond?" And I picked up the papers and turned some pages to get stuff, and I said, "This is the man I'm working on his book right here, co-authoring this book, and I'm sitting here working on it right now." And it was just awfully, awfully wild. It's to be there and to hear that, and it just brought everything closer. Not so bad for a Googling of coincidence on the beach, story number 1. Well, now let's take a listen to story number 2. This is a story from May 5th of 2011, printed on the website of Guidepost. It's a hope, inspiration, and faith publication. As a matter of fact, I remember that my Aunt Margie used to buy an annual subscription to Guidepost for my mother every Christmas. The piece is written by Adam Hunter in his segment entitled Mysterious Ways. The article is entitled Inexplicable Coincidence on Hawaiian Beach. And here we go. They were in the right place at the right time. How often do we hear about the incredible ways two people's lives intersect, resulting in extraordinary rescues, star-crossed romances, or unexpected reunions? An article I recently read in the Boston Globe showed me yet again that despite astronomical odds, the most wonderful connections are happening in our world every day. In the tropical paradise of Hawaii, a family vacationing and a surfing lesson led to an astonishing meeting between two men who shared a common bond. Waikiki Beach wasn't on their vacation itinerary, but Rick Hill, his fiancée Maureen, and their 3 children in Hawaii for a sunny week away from their Lunenburg, Massachusetts home, decided to make a quick stop. Joe Parker, who grew up in Leominster, Massachusetts, but moved to Hawaii years ago to escape a troubled past, wasn't supposed to be on the beach that day either. He was an event planner for a resort and was arranging a last-minute surfing lesson for a client. Maureen was about to take a photo of Rick and the kids when Joe happened by. He kindly offered to take a picture of the entire family. As Joe lined up the shot, he listened to the family speak to one another. Joe was certain he recognized their accent, a distinctive derivative of the Bostonian Pak Ka Havid Yad drawl spoken in his old neighborhood. Instead of saying cheese, Joe smiled and said, "Say Leo Meister." Leo Meister was the next town over from Leuenberg. The family and Joe got to talking. A few names were thrown around. "Do you know a Dickie Halligan?" Joe asked. "Know him? That's my father," Rick said. Joe lowered his sunglasses and squinted at Rick, stunned. "He's my father, too." According to the Globe, Joe had grown up in foster care and had a painful childhood running away from home at age 15. He had been told as a child that Dickie Halligan was his uncle. He only discovered the truth when he was 21 after responding to an ad Dickie had placed in the local paper searching for him. Dickie revealed then that Joe had a half-brother, but Joe and Rick never met. Until now, on a Hawaiian beach, 6,000 miles away from where they grew up. Joe and Rick spent the rest of the week together. Joe turned 38 on Easter Sunday and celebrated with his long-lost family. "We lost 38 years together, which is a shame," Joe told the Globe, "but we are both grateful that this has happened and that we can get a chance in life to bond." Now, I really enjoyed that one. On a lighter note, earlier today, during lunch, I was listening to the June 25th interview that Kevin did with Michael C. Hall, who plays Dexter. And as we all know who follow Dexter, this is their last season, so I thought that's really going to be interesting. And these interviews are always at least an hour and a half and sometimes 2 hours or longer. They don't have any particular schedule they have to keep because it's the internet. So while I was listening, I heard something that I wanted to share with you. Let me play it for you now.
Every person's an entire world, so there's just all these swirling universes of, what the past 8 years have meant to all these people, what it means collectively. It's a pretty heady time.
I love the fact that he referred to individuals as swirling universes, because I've been reading a book entitled, I've got it right here, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. It's absolutely fascinating. I encourage you all to pick it up. I got mine at the local library where I get most of my stuff because I'm too cheap and I like to read for free. But it seemed so parallel to some of the things that I've been reading of late. I also liked that he referred to the group of people as a collective. Again, as many of you know, I was a part of the collective imagination for about 9 months before I stepped into the background to help support them in other ways. And I'm a genuine believer in the collective. I'm a believer in the individual and the power that we have, but I also genuinely believe that when we pool our energy, we become something more, something grander, something powerful, energetic, joyful, whatever we choose for it to be. So I hope you enjoyed that clip because it just goes to show you that people and situations you find yourself in, you're surprised by the fact that there are so many others that you didn't suspect or have any inclination to know that they thought very similarly to the way you do. Check out Kevin Pollak's chat show on his website of the same name, or you can subscribe to either the audio version or the video version on iTunes. To be honest with you, I hadn't even heard of this program until we had Hurricane Sandy, and I was stuck without electricity. I was jumping on over to the library once the streets were clear enough for us to get over there, and I would download a few of the episodes and come home and listen to them and keep me entertained in the darkness, waiting for the 3.5 weeks to pass until I got my electricity back. So thank goodness I discovered it, because now I had a really cool clip to share with you. And on that note, let me close out this segment of Cool Coincidence. Please join me next week. We'll have just as much fun as we did this week. And in the meantime, please visit us at facebook.com/coolcoincidence. I'll see you next week.